Hey, hope everyone's doing well today. Topps has released their checklist for Series 1, and so I'm just going through kind of my targets for that particular release and thought I would share my thoughts with you. So this isn't this isn't a guarantee or anything like that. We're just going to go through the numbers and see who's of interest. And so the checklist will be in the description here. But I've taken all the rookies out of it, and I think that's who most people are going after. Of course, a Juan Soto autograph or Mike Trout or something like that would be pretty nice. But the most part, I think people are chasing the rookies in the particular variations. So I've put together a list of the rookies, and I've taken the scouting projections for them from Fangraphs and loaded them up into a spreadsheet. And so we're looking at scouting grades, and this is somewhat predictive of how they can do in the future. And I've put together some scouting reports for some players from the last few years, and we can just make a comparison there. And so let's just see who might be who might make the binder, the top loader, or who might be a target on eBay or something like that. So we'll start out with a couple of the catchers here. We've got Dalton Varsho, Joey Bart, and Keibert Ruiz, and we're going to compare them to Will Smith, who had a estimated future value of 50, and you can see that his defense was a pretty high grade. And this is on the 20 to 80 scale, so 20 is your lowest of the low end, and 80 is you're an elite player at that particular talent. So here's all the tools here. You have your hit and your game power, your raw power. Speed, fielding, throwing, and all that kind of good stuff. So from a catcher, we don't really care too much about speed, and you can see Dalton Varsho has a good speed tool, and that's why he's probably in center field for a bit here. So decent fielder overall. Joey Bart is your one of your better fielders at the position there. But we are looking for card purposes, you don't really care about how fast a guy is or how good their defense is. You want to know how well they hit. And Joey Bart looks to have the hit tool here, so he's got a lot of the raw power, some game power. Of the catchers here, better of the game power. So it looks like Keibert Ruiz is going to be more of a defensive guy who can slap hit around here. Joey Bart looks like he can kind of do it all at the plate. Might have a little bit of strikeout to him here, as the hit tool's a little bit low, but the power tools are very high here. And again, we don't care about the speed in the field. The fielding will keep him on the field, which is nice. Dalton Varsho, kind of middle of the road here. Good speed tool. Fielding, power, all that kind of good stuff, right in the middle of the range here. And we also want to consider age. We want these guys to come up young and start producing. So I think Joey Bart is the first guy that is going to make it to my binder here. And you can see again, compares favorably to Will Smith overall. And then we'll kind of skip a few guys down here, a little bit older, and you're seeing a lot of power from Dalbec here, and actually a decent hit tool, so I might consider him as well. He's just a little bit older than I'd like to see, so maybe he'll be on the lookout, but I don't know if I'm going to go out of my way for him. If he gets off to a hot start, then I'll keep my eye on him and wait for a cool down before before going too nuts on that particular player here. So Jo Adell, excellent raw power in the game power score. Great speed. We've seen his fielding. He's not on the team because of his fielding, anything like that. And there's a lot of strikeout to him. So just 21 years old, so he can figure it out. And I think this is a player that myself and I think a lot of people will be very interested in. I will wait for. I think out of the gates he'll be a very hot pickup. I will wait for that first slump. Again, with that high strikeout potential, it's likely to happen. And we saw that last year out of him. Before doing much with him. We'll wait for that cool down. But again, at age 21, he has a lot of time to kind of grow into this. So Jimenez for the Mets also has a pretty decent speed and fielding tool. The hit tool is not quite there, and so that's not a player that I'm likely to target. I'll leave more for the rest of you guys. Isaac Paredes for the Tigers. Not a lot of speed. Fielding's okay, so he's going to be there for his hit tool, so he can hit. He's got some good raw power, middling game power. So again, a player that I'm probably not going to look too hard after. We'll get into some of the players that were up last year, Ryan Mountcastle and Evan White. So they've got some excellent hit tools. Evan White, terrific defense, but again, for card purposes, doesn't do us a lot of good here. Over here, we see their rankings on their team in terms of prospect rank, and then overall prospect rankings here. So you can see that we have some pretty high prospects in this group right here. And this is just how they were on the checklist, so I didn't really group them by anything here, but you can see that we do have some speed and defense. As far as hitting, not seeing a lot of that. Christian Pache, I think, was a player that a lot of people are going to target. Number one prospect for the Braves, almost a top 10 prospect overall. However, the hit tool and the power tool aren't quite there. He's going to be up for a lot of his defensive purposes here. So still young, maybe develops the rest. But the scouting reports aren't really indicating that that's coming anytime soon here. So I will probably leave Christian Pache, but Evan White and Ryan Mountcastle, they'll be of interest, see if they can do something here. Mountcastle has a ton of power. He came up, did pretty well in his debut with the Orioles, but he did have a high BABIP. And so we're looking for some regression from him, and that's where I'll pounce. If he comes out of the gate hot, for card purposes, then I'll probably wait for a little bit for some of that regression to set in. Nick Madrigal, again, excellent hitter, not a lot of power, excellent fielding, and it's a player that I'll have some of, but I'm not going to go out of my way to get some of the higher end stuff out of Nick Madrigal, just because you want to see that power and that hit tool present itself. So you can see over here, we've got Luis Robert, who is a future value of 60, and he had the power, and he's, the hit tool is low, but he's got the power part, and I think that's what gets people excited. Ronald Acuna, a future value of 65. So this is where I'm looking for those 50s and 60s. A lot of raw power, speed, and game power, and a pretty nice hit tool as well. So if you can find anybody like that, and I'm not seeing anybody like that in Series 1, unfortunately, so it could certainly happen. Juan Soto didn't have a great hit tool. As judged by the scouts, game power and raw power were there, good speed, fielding was average, and he had a future value of 50. So that's why I kind of cut it off I'll go down to the 50 level, just because some of these guys could turn into, you never know what they turn into, honestly. So I've talked about Ruiz Taveras, the #1 prospect for the Rangers. Again, good speed, good fielding. The hit tool is not quite there. Alec Boehm had a pretty good debut with the Phillies last year. Fielding and speed aren't there, so he's up for another reason, and that is because the dude can hit, and he showed that in his debut. So look for a little regression from him. Some of those metrics were a little elevated in the shortened season, but Alec Boehm is another player that I will look a little bit closer at here. He's got a future value of 50, and I think the defense portion is holding him back, but we're more interested in the offense. Dylan Carlson. Wrap it up with the hitters here. So across the board, a very solid player overall. Player that I like just a lot, but as far as having that high-end potential for a card, he's going to have to do something special, and nothing jumps out at this time. So those are the hitters. For the pitchers, again, we're looking for that future value of somewhere between 50 and 60. And there's a couple guys that show that right now. We've got Sixto Sanchez, who is lights out. I think a lot of people will be looking for him, and probably rightfully so. But again, with pitchers, I tend to tread a little bit lightly, so we'll look for deals on that one here. David Garcia for the Yankees, #1 prospect overall, top 40. #1 prospect for the Yankees, top 40 overall. A very young pitcher here, and there's just so much risk to these guys. You never know what happens to their arm in a couple of years. So just numbers are off the charts here. This could be a terrific player, but I won't go crazy on him. Nate Pearson as well, 60 future value. This might be he and Luis Patino will be your maybe your two best prospects coming out of Series 1 for the pitchers here. So #1 prospects for the team. #3 prospect. He came over to the Rays in the trade for Blake Snell. So a lot of good pitches, and he's got an excellent fastball and slider. So fastball, slider guys make me a little bit nervous with potential arm troubles down the road here. Ian Anderson, Spencer Howard, top prospects for their respective teams here, and Casey Mize. So these are guys that I'll stick in the binder and maybe do a little something with if the price is right. But again, I tread lightly on pitchers overall. So finish up with a couple of guys over here. You can see Bo Bichette was a 60 player. Future value for Gavin Lux. And so that's why you want to stick to those 50s and 60s and 70 guys. Not saying that these guys in the 30s and 40s couldn't do anything, but it's not as likely. So anybody over 50, and if they're young, I'll take a look at, and we'll see how the season goes. So next week, we will have, the 9th or the 10th or something like that. So a week and a half. Those boxes should be delivered. We'll be opening a couple, and happy hunting. Hope everyone has a great time. Baseball is in card form is back, and that is very exciting. Have a great rest of the day, and take care.